Alina, and I'm currently located in California with my sister. However, I was born and raised in the eastern part of Ukraine, actually in Zaporizhia, which is a land of Cossacks. I'm not sure how much you know about Cossacks, but this is a group of people who are always seeking to maintain the independence of Ukraine and fighting against enemies. However, the last 5 years, I'm living with my husband Borя in the very western part of Ukraine, in Lviv. And before we will share this personal story and experience that we went through, I just wanted to express my gratitude and for even considering helping Ukraine. I have to be honest that it's been very tough mentally, and sometimes I felt personally, and I'm pretty sure that all of the Ukrainians felt that way, that we were losing the trust and hope in the humanity, sometimes seeing what's happening with our homeland, with our friends, with our direct and non-direct relatives. However, seeing how international community, how Ukraine is united and everyone around us, millions of people are trying to help as much as they can is absolutely heartwarming. And like a big thank you for that, for being there with us and standing shoulder to shoulder. So as I said, this will be a personal story, and to be honest, if you put things into perspective, I would say we cannot complain. Like my story, Yana's story, we cannot complain because, as I said, our friends, our Ukrainian brothers and sisters went through so much worse than we did. And I'm not going to be talking about numbers of the people injured or the kids who became orphans. I'm not going to be talking about that. This will be just the way we lived for the February and March and everything that we're going through right now. So I'll start with a very quick explanation on what happened on 24th of February. I think every Ukrainian experienced pretty much the same. We all woke up at around 5 o'clock from a call from our friends from Kiev. I remember my husband picking up the phone at around 5 o'clock, and I was still sleepy, and I just heard him saying that, okay, then we are going to Poland in a few hours. I asked him what has happened, and he said, just go to bed, sleep for a few hours, and then I'll tell you everything. So that's what I did, and I woke up at around 7:30 a.m. and the first thing he told me, it actually began. That's what he said. And I immediately realized what has happened. He said that he received a call from a friend from Kiev who said that he hears bombing on the streets, on the Obolon, which is a big street in Kiev. And he said that we need to get our things together and just flee Ukraine as soon as possible because we don't know how quickly it will be escalating. We started picking up our things. We didn't have much. It was just like a backpack and a hand luggage. However, our car was at the service at that time, so we just had to go and get our car from the service. And the service was opening at around 9 a.m. and we couldn't actually get a taxi at first because it felt like there's no one, there's no taxi drivers who are willing to help. So, but we succeeded and we got a taxi to the car service and we got our car back. And I just wanted to share what I saw on the streets that day. I think the people faces, they were just completely lost. Like you saw like a terrifying faces of people who couldn't understand what to do. We were just completely lost and out of track of what to do. There were about half a mile line of cars to get a gas. So some drivers had to wait for about 4 hours to actually get a gas. And there were about 50 people in line to get an ATM, to get to the ATM and get some cash. So it was just a like complete surreal picture on the streets, to be honest. And this became the worst day of our lives, of our family, basically. And when I say that, I will tell you a bit more about how the rest of the day went, but I just wanted to say that I remember my husband saying to me before the February 24th, he was saying that, you know, the worst day of my life was actually March 2014. when Crimea was annexed by Russia, and my husband is from Crimea. So I wanted to give a word to my husband, Boris, and he'll give you just a few words about what he was experiencing at that time and why that was previously the worst day of his life.
Good day, good evening. Unfortunately, this is not the first time I'm being separated from my family. I've decided to choose this picture from our family album because my grandfather was actually a doctor, and I was named Boris after him. He started his career in 1961 as pediatrician therapist in Tajikistan, Soviet Union, and has been serving healthcare for the rest of his life. And in 2001, he was still treating enormous amount of patients. He was a head traumatology department. And in this picture, apart from him and my grandma, you can see me next to my cousin and my elder brother. In the last 7 years, we have seen each other, I would say, 3 or 4 times. Vitaly, my elder brother, stays with my mom in Crimea. And Vlad, he has recently moved to Latvia, Riga. So in March 2014, Russia invaded and annexed the Crimean Peninsula. By that time, I was already working as a software developer for a tiny Crimean company. And they offered me a relocation to Kiev less than 1 year later after that. Of course, I accepted it without much deliberation because it was almost impossible to continue to stay in Crimea. Long lines at the ATMs, blackouts, electricity outages, empty supermarket shelves, closed banks, and fake brands on the next slide. Yeah, this is the KFC and McDonald's in Crimea. Propaganda, persistent sense of injustice, poverty, international isolation, and complete lack of prospects. Crimea was gone in this way and without a single shot. Yeah, that's my story. That's the first time I was separated from my mom, my brother and cousin, and my grandmom. Passing the word back.
Yes, thank you, Borja. So what happened next we're going back to February 24th. When we got our car back with only one backpack, with only one little suitcase, like a hand luggage, we sit in our car and we just drove to the Polish border. And I have to say now that I was on February 24th, I was 20 weeks pregnant. Right now, I am 32 weeks pregnant. I have a little Ukrainian here with me. It's a girl. So we picked our stuff, we sit in the car, and we went to the Polish border. We were lucky because Lviv is actually located about 40 miles away from Polish border, and it took us to get to the neighbor city, the nearest to the border, about 1 hour and 20 minutes. We were also lucky that we had about 3/4 of our tank full of gas, and we didn't have to wait in a 4 hours line to get a gas. However, when we drive to the border, we saw a huge line of cars. It was about 3 miles of line of cars. And we had to wait in line for so long. It was in the middle of the field. There was no toilet, no nothing. You're just waiting for everyone to get to be in the line and get to the border police. So we sit there for 5 hours. It was unbearable. The line was moving really slowly. And we decided, since I was completely mentally broken that day, and it was tough on me physically and mentally, my husband decided to kind of go directly to the border by using the opposite line and just skipping the whole line because I wasn't feeling very well. And we were very pleasantly surprised when Ukrainian people that were much nearer to the border police, they allowed us to fit into the line. And because I was pregnant and I also had some conditions that were not making it all easier. So we were much closer. We were about 10 cars before the actual border police, which is amazing. However, and it's like time was flying fast, and it was about 10 hours in line already. And the line started getting slower and slower. I mean, moving slower and slower. And then something something bad for my family has happened, and we got information that Ukrainian government announces the martial law, and it means that all men should stay in the country and they are not allowed to leave in case they might be mobilized at some point. So it means that I'm not going anywhere. I didn't want to leave my husband in Ukraine and be alone, pregnant in Poland or any other place. I felt horrible, so we had to go back to our apartment because it was my decision. I said I'm not gonna leave Bora, and we just had to return to our apartment. However, it was almost around midnight already because we waited for so long, and we received information from our friend that it's better not to be back to Lviv center because they're expecting some possible attacks in the city. So the decision was made to actually spend the night in a car in a almost forest, not far from the city border, and that was like another one of the worst nights that we had. So when we were back to our home in the morning around 5 a.m., we realized that we are probably staying here, even though my husband was very insisting on to sending me somewhere even alone because he didn't want to jeopardize the pregnancy and our future baby. However, what happened next is that we started receiving calls from our friends who were in Kiev, and Kiev was in a much worse situation. There were actual bombing of the civilian houses. So we were just trying to help, and our friends decided that they will flee Kiev and stay with us in the western part of Ukraine. And this is how actually Yana and her husband came, and their little baby came to us and stayed with us for a couple of weeks and then months. And besides them, we also hosted another couple. So it was 7 people in our apartment in Lviv, and 2 cats that we hosted, just in order to be helpful as much as we can. Obviously, in Ukraine, we don't live in houses. We live in apartments that are not as big as we would want to, but this is what we have, and we're happy with that. So I wanted to give a word to Yana for a quick story that she had to live through in February and March.
Hi, everybody. I'm Yana, and currently I live in Germany, and my husband stayed at Kiev. And there is a short story of our family. So on the 3rd of February, I gave birth to our daughter, Stephanie, and we spent 3 weeks at this amazing routine of raising her. And on the 23rd of February, as usually, we watched a movie and planned our life. And we were very naive, as we see now. So we woke up at approximately 5 a.m. The next morning to feed Stefan. And we always updated the news as the gossip around us about the war and about some bad news. And my husband read this news about explosions at airports and told me that we should move on out of our house immediately. So we called our parents and our friends to alarm them that the war had started, and The hardest part at that time was to pack our cat with us because we didn't consider to leave her alone. And we know the story, a lot of stories like people left their pets at home, and it's catastrophic for me and for everybody in Ukraine. So we moved to our friend's house in Kiev region, and we had hope that we will return in a couple of days to our home. But as the Russian soldiers has downed Ukrainian plane in 4 kilometers from our shelter, we decided to move to west part of Ukraine to get to use the invitation from Alina and Borya, and we spent there some time. And it was a long and nervous way for us, but it seems like I have a superpower to feed my baby in any condition, in any conditions. And by the way, on the 1st of March, we received the news that our maternity hospital was bombed, and it was a place where we felt the best moment of our life, and it was ruined. So seems like my story goes to Alina, and she will continue. Thank you.